No, but really, this is very, very nice. Giving me exposure, putting me on the ABC here for the Oxfam Gala. Because, I don't know how to feel about this. You know what happened the last time the ABC came to my country? Not good. Yeah, it was when the Four Corners team came to my country to investigate the nothing. We detained them, we confiscated their passports, and after some diplomatic tension with Canberra, we deported them. And this is your retaliation? You give me exposure? This is laughable. Who's your Minister of Revenge? I mean, I've heard of turning the other cheek, but don't slap yourself, is what I'm saying.
Thank you for joining us on Boleh the Podcast. I'm Chako Vadaketh, and with me will be Gopal Srinivasan, and we're very excited with our next guest for this edition of Boleh the Podcast. Life for Malaysians during these dark pandemic days of political turmoil has been considerably brightened up by a series of clever, insightful, and very funny satirical videos created by our guest. He's been hailed as the King of Malaysian Comedy, the hottest, most topical comedian in cyberspace. In the old normal, he's packed out houses in person in the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, at the Public Theatre in New York City, and venues big and small, the length and breadth of Malaysia, and also in Singapore and Hong Kong. Our guest is, of course, Douglas Lim.
Hello.
Hi, Douglas.
Hi, Gopal. Hi, Chako.
Hi. Hi, Douglas.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you very much for making time for us in the midst of all there's so much material for you to work with these days, right?
Yeah, I wish there wasn't that much,
I know.
I like a little bit, but I mean, the reality is what it is. Either you look at it and you cry, or just try and make something and laugh. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, I think all of us are very grateful that you help us to laugh while also understanding the situation in a way. You shine a spotlight on things and show us how things are or how ridiculous some of the rules are. But laughing at it is better than crying, as you say.
I guess.
So, Douglas, we thought we just, people would like to know about how you started, how all this came about. And maybe we could go back to, you started life on military bases in Kuching, Kuantan, and your father was in the military, right?
Yeah. It's one of those stories where people go like, "Oh, yeah, what was your dad? What was your family?" My family are probably like not funny at all. There was nothing funny about my family. My dad was in the military, so he lived in a hyper reality where everything was you just listen and you follow orders and you follow them without question, because if you don't do it, someone will die. So he brought that reality to the home. Which now you look back, you're like, geez, there's no communist in the house waiting to shoot me if I don't finish my food. But his reality was like, no, man, you finish your food and you sit upright doing it. You slouch, the communists will shoot you. I have no idea. So he was, it was very, very disciplined household. I was brought up in that environment. But I remember from a very young age, and I'm told this because I obviously can't remember, I was too young, that my ambition as a kid was to be a clown, which is a bit weird, because most kids in Air Force or Army bases want to be like their parents. They want to be soldiers. So like in the Air Force base, the kids want to be pilots. But so there was this short Chinese spiky haired boy who was going around wanting to be Bozo the Clown. And I think maybe maybe that was how I resonated with comedy as a kid. The clown was the funny guy. And so I kind of really liked
jokes and things as a kid. Were you entertaining people as a kid?
Yeah, I was entertaining people. I wasn't really telling jokes because I think jokes is a bit more adult. So as a kid, I would be doing impersonations of shows that I would watch. So I had like cartoons that I would watch, the Bugs Bunny cartoons, the what melodies?
Merry Melody.
Yeah, Merry Melodies cartoons that I would Hanna-Barbera. I would copy those cartoons. Bruce Lee shows. I'll do oh, Bruce Lee, and the bad dubbing, so I would do that. I would sing songs and entertain. I feel like such a cabaret showgirl. I would sing songs and entertain soldiers. Because they would come to my dad's house, and I'd be there entertaining all these soldier boys.
Oh gosh, the US had Marilyn Monroe go down to military bases. All Malaysia had was Douglas Lim.
Yeah, poor guys.
And of course, I think when we had a chat yesterday, we've got a few things in common. One of which is that we both went to Victoria Institution. Yeah, VI. And I think the old boys are very proud of you, Douglas. And
that's nice to know. We got some really distinguished old boys, man. Like,
yes, and I think the VIOBA Foundation might be approaching you to do a charity fundraiser the moment we can go back.
Whole life, love. Yoba whole life charity. Whole life. They've never called me to say, hey, Douglas, we got some money. Would you like some? Never. Yoba is always, hey, charity.
Well, I think I thought comedians made a good living. So anyway, we'll come to that in a bit. But what was life like in VI? Was there any comedy there?
No, in VI, I think I was still in the drama, literary and debating society, and so a lot of my I wasn't the fire and brimstone speaker of the team. I was the joker of the team, so I would go there, make fun of the opposition, of the opposing team, get people to laugh at them, and hopefully influence the judges into giving us the win, although we had no points whatsoever. So that was kind of my job on the literary and debating society. But back then I was heavily into music, so I thought I was Mozart reincarnate. No, I thought I was like this musician with a lot of angst and very deep connection with the meaning of the universe and life. And I was all up in my head, like doing songs, emotions and stuff. And then comedy only happened like about 3 years after I left school. Because if I may continue here, Chaco.
Yeah.
I think this is also something that our education system has a lot of important things to look into. Because I was from the education system, I was a TESOL graduate. Okay. However, one of the things which I noticed Australia is doing is something called class clowns, where they identify disruptive students who disrupt classes using humor, and they are funneled into a special program where their comedy is nurtured, and they eventually become the youngest stand-up comedians in Australia and move up the ranks that way, and they end up being really good because their instinct is spotted early and nurtured. I mean, separately from the class. So they're gonna, dude, okay, very funny, but you can't do it in this class because this class you're disruptive. We take you up, and they've got a separate environment where it is growth. Whereas in Malaysia, a lot of times it's don't be funny. And you try anything in school, it's always don't be funny. You are never encouraged to be funny in school. And so I think that might be a problem.
Was there much theater or anything when you were there? Because when I was there, was really nothing much.
But we had a few like inter-school drama society. We would do some plays. But I was also very active in church back then. So I was constantly, because I was one of the better performers, so I would get the role of Peter, Paul, in church plays. The ones that are not so good usually get Bush number 3, Sheep.
And I bet these were musicals like cantatas and things like that. So because you're a phenomenal singer and performer, you're super multi-talented.
The choir,
So tell us a little bit about how you you were focused on music and singing, and then how did you go into acting and then stand-up comedy? How did that happen?
So after school, that was when my parents allowed me to do professional theatre. Prior to that, I was in school. So like I think I might have been approached once or twice by some TV programs. My parents were like, no, you're in school. Just, can you please, you're not very smart. Can you just study? Can you just, do the work and not fool around? After SPM, you can have more choices. And so after SPM, immediately I saw an audition for Savages, which was a theatre production by Joe Hasham and Fred American. This is even before Actors Studio Dataran Merdeka. This is before that, and
Yeah.
I remember.
I was sort
I
of
remember
involved in that too, right?
Yes,
Remember?
you were my assistant director. I went in there and there was this booming voice that we had to read out like a passage, a script, and we had to act to. And Marion De Cruz was our choreographer, and so that's when I first met Chaco, and met a lot of good friends then. So from there, I did theater. At the same time, my passion for music was still there, so I was still doing music, and then I got picked up to do an album, which and I was way too young to do it, but we did an album
With Chelsea, right? Was that with Chelsea? Chelsea Young?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's with Chelsea. And then one of the songs got picked up for the Kopitiam soundtrack, which I had also gotten. So I got a part in a sitcom. So there were three things were happening at the same time. There was my music, there was theater, and then there was a TV, a sitcom. So these three things happening at the same time. I was accepted to Maktab Perguruan Ilmu Khas Teachers Training College to do TESOL, which is a government scholarship program.
Wow.
So I had four things going on at the same time. So theater took a back seat, and then it was between music, because also I have to maybe explain what kind of a student is this that's doing all three things. The first 2 years of my degree in TESOL was matriculation. So they were very nice because matriculation, a lot of it I already covered in Form 5 if you do 1119. So I did 1119. So a lot of times they were saying, hey, Doug, I mean, as long as your grades don't drop, if you want to go and do all these things, you may. And so they allowed me the space to go and shoot a sitcom, which was very nice of them. And so while my album came out, and that received no attention whatsoever, quite a failure. Very bad sales. Reviews were not good.
Well, just as well, because we've got you today as the voice of the rakyat.
I don't know, man. I'm a comedian. Huh? Okay, let's be very clear what I am. So then my sitcom took off. The Kopitiam took off. If you can remember it, like unbelievable. The way it took off was so amazing. Like we couldn't believe it. Joanna, Bessie, Rashid Saleh, Lina Teo, myself, even Mano Mani, who had been in the industry for so long, he was like, "This show is doing very well, Douglas." I was like, yeah, it is. and Shaw was there, and it just so that one, it was easy for me to see what was working and what wasn't working, and so I went with the one that was working. The decision was kind of made for me, and so I went in that direction. But I also genuinely love that direction.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely love your work, right?
Yeah. I enjoy doing it.
So you've done, apart from Kopitiam, which is in English, you've done stuff in Malay, in Chinese even, right? So you're trilingual.
I would say bilingual, predominantly bilingual. My Chinese is very embarrassing. I can get by conversational, but my presentational Chinese is very bad. I have zero Mandarin, so
it's all Cantonese, is it?
Yes, and even then it's limited. So I've done like interviews for China Press and for stuff and for Chinese radio in Cantonese, and I think the look of pain on the DJs and the interviewers are very evident. Just because I'm just hurting them with my language.
So what's the difference between working in an English medium production or a Chinese or a Malay production? Are there differences in the way they work and your experiences?
Okay, this might border on racism, on stereotypes, but okay. From my experience, that is wholly my experience, okay?
Yeah.
English productions, a lot of emphasis, in my opinion, a lot of emphasis on the medium. In other words, a lot of care on the shot, on the
production values,
on the production. A lot of thought and it seems to be on that one. This is based on the English productions that I've been on. Okay, Chinese production speed. Oh. It's just let's go. Why are you resting? Why are you resting? Why do we need half an hour to eat? What you can't eat while you're changing? Why you let's go. Like,
Time is money. Time is money.
yeah,
Huh?
it's just let's go. Like, and people are running. Like, that's how Chinese productions. No one walks. They're just constantly running and setting stuff up, and they're very fast, right? Malay productions really want to make sure you're fed. Like they're really a lot of the budget is spent on making sure the actors eat well. Like, they're really concerned.
Oh, I don't think that's been completely my experience, but yeah.
Yeah. So Malay productions, I'm like, yep, food is sorted. This is like Chinese productions. I'll take my own just in case. I have a sandwich with me just in case, But like Malay productions, I'm sorted, man. Food is always there. They're constantly eating.
Now, you talked about doing parodies and mimicry and stuff as a kid, and then I think I read in an interview that your famous video about the Tajuddin press conference for Prasarana, the disastrous press conference, and you modeled your parody of him on some of your dad's colleagues. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. So my dad had colleagues in the military, and so these were very Anglo-Malay men. And I think we've seen them. We see so many of them, and they are they are in government, they are in opposition, but they're basically powerful Malay men who are very Anglo. And that's how they seem to speak the English. There's a questions, they're like, oh no, young man, and they've got this way of speaking, which is quite entertaining. But I'm sure in give it a few years, we are going to get a whole different bunch of Malay people who speak English. I see them now in the supermarkets. And everywhere, like families, like Malay family, 4 kids, 5 kids, all speaking in English with a slight Aussie twang because they're brought up on all these Australian TV shows like High Five and stuff like kids going like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Malay kids like going around. It's like, Papa, I want to get toys now. We have to go look at the toys now. So I think we're going to get a new generation very soon.
So Malaysian speaking with Australian accents and American accents. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
So what are the elements that influence and inform your comedy? Do you look for characters that you can later bring up in some of your comedies? How do you find material?
I'm what is known as an observational comedian. It's one of the most common types of comedians. So we observe, and then we analyze, we critique, and we give our opinion. So it's always that. That's always the basis of what we do. Whether I do it through impersonation, I do it through extended metaphor, I do it through a parody, I do it through stand-up, I do it through a commentary. So what happens is I try and locate what is the core. Why am I feeling what I feel when I watch this? Why is it that when I watch something and I look at it, okay, I see what it's doing. Everybody sees it. Maybe people have opinions on the way this person is dressing, the way he's talking, the arrogance that he's showing, or just the fact that he seems to be very rude. But what I look at, and then so I go look for the core. What is it? And if the core thing would be like, it looks like he doesn't care. I think this person doesn't care, and so that's my opinion. So that one, the entire video is driven towards that end. Where at the end, what I'm trying to tell people is, guys, I think he doesn't care, and so and so that's really how the whole thing is framed. It has to come from an opinion, and most stand-up comedians will tell you that. Well, a lot of people think we go up there and we tell jokes. On the surface, yes, it is jokes, but it's actually our opinions.
That is just from a sort of technique perspective. I mean, I've read of people like Larry David, Jerry Seinfeld. They carry notebooks around with them, and have all these ideas, and then suddenly it occurs to them, and they scribble them down. Does that happen with you as well?
Yeah. I've got I can show you. I've got
your 3-5 notebook.
Yeah, I've got it here. So if you can see, Yeah, I got comedy ideas. I don't know if, I mean, it's probably, you can't.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Too bright. Yeah. Okay.
Too bright. Okay.
Trade
What?
secrets anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but so, for example, I've got, simple things like I've got this thing here about, you watch the food chain analysis for the ecosystem. You see like what animal gets eaten by what animal gets eaten by what animal gets eaten by what animal. I just wonder, is there one version in Chinese where the Chinese are just there, like everyone, like, it's like this animal's eaten by the Chinese, this animal's eaten by the Chinese. So it's dumb things like this. So I just write these things down, and then I may use them later. Like, I know there was one picture, this before, I think, the Sheraton move, of, I think they showed Mahathir with his tracksuit on a bicycle to show that he was still bicycling in Putrajaya, and of course next to him were all these other cyclists in proper with the helmet and the speedo suit and bicycles, and even after that, all the outriders were there, and I was thinking, like, how fast do you think Mahathir is going to go on this bicycle? Like, why do they need all these people there to catch this man, or what? Like, like, what do you think he was going to do? He's going like, and then like start cycling fast. So these things are constantly in my head, and observation. That's what observational comedians do. We see, we write it down. We don't know what's going to happen to it. Might end up as nothing. Might end up being part of a stand-up set or a video.
So do you have favorite characters from your life or your past that you bring back to when you do your skits and things? Some people, like, they have their mother or they have an auntie or something, and that that character keeps coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think I see it that way. I just do have characters where I try and make as strong a caricature as possible. So these are caricatures; they're not really characters. I mean, Chaco as an actor, I think you know the difference. Yeah. Characters usually have arcs. Caricature is a caricature. Is one thing. So I try and build strong caricatures which have one or two features that are always there. So like I've got this caricature called Uni, and so she's, "Hi everyone, it's your girl Uni again, and welcome to my universe." So selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri everyone, and hari ini I akan buat interview dengan seorang yang tak asing sebab dia Samseng. Hi, keep it real. Tu serban ke tuala, babe? Okay, ada kuih, ada tart. Let's start. And so she's kind of like a play on you, singer-songwriter she wears. So she's like the really optimistic, not terribly clever, but very optimistic and very cheerful about everything. So that's her. And there's no arc. That's pretty much her. Then there's Keep It Real, who's this rumpet guy, who's just constantly shitting on everybody, and constantly your typical rumpet where no matter what you're doing, he's there with some stupid negative remark. But at the end, the slight twist is that he's actually got bits of cleverness that surprise you. But that's just a comedy technique. Then there is Thundercat. This is the old Chinese uncle. So I try and create caricatures that are easy for me to do. So the more I try and stay away from complex or more complex caricatures because they're just harder to do.
But it's also easier for the audience to just grasp, okay, this is who he is, right? And
and because it's all, I would rather have other actors around. If you ask my personal decision, I'm old school. I mean, we are from traditional media, so I prefer to have other people in a sketch with me, if possible. It's just that it's not possible now, and I've got to do all the characters on my own. But if I had other people, if I had Gavin, if I had Alvin Wong, people that I think it'd be much funnier.
But I think that's also part of the wonder that people like, because you've created, it's just you, and then you brought life to all these other characters, and I think that's part of the magic that you bring to our phones when we look at your videos. So, I think we could say you're at the peak of your comedy career. You're King of Malaysian Comedy. Is that self-proclaimed?
That was
It's on
okay.
your website.
This is all very dangerous when you when you start saying things like this. The whole King of Comedy Malaysia thing came about was branding for my show in Melbourne. So the Melbourne Comedy Festival invited me over to do a show, and so to market me, they wrote King of Malaysian Comedy, and then so suddenly everybody said, "Oh, you're the King of Malaysian Comedy." I'm like, I didn't say I was the King of Malaysian Comedy. There was no. I don't come from a royal lineage. There was no election process. I have no idea how this happened. But it was branding.
There was no pertabalan or anything.
There was no. It's just branding. But I mean, hey, I'm not. If that's the brand, yeah, I'm quite happy to have it for a while. And then the Malaysian Book of Records, all friends lah. So they also said, hey, we got an award for you. So we're going to call you King of Parody because your video hit 1 million in under 24 hours. And so we're going to give you an award. And so like there's more branding there, which is very nice. But yeah, I think the amount of attention that I'm getting now is very surreal. It's more than what I'm not new, Chaco. I've been doing this for more than 20 years.
Right.
And it's not that I've been struggling all the while. I've been fairly successful in traditional media, on Kopitiam, on TV. I've had decent successes there. It's just that now I'm seeing it on social media where it's a lot more direct and a lot more. It's a lot faster. Like people who watch can actually tell you, hey, that was really funny immediately, which is what I had enjoyed as a stand-up comedian. When you go there and you tell the jokes and they're there and it works because they laugh. You succeeded because they laugh. You also know you fail immediately and you die a horrible death. But when it works, it's amazing.
Okay. So, I mean, there must have been an easy ride all the way. What are some of the early struggles you had, in your career path?
Oh yeah, definitely. When I started doing stand-up, even though I was from television, stand-up was a whole different beast. And at that time when I started, there were no comedy clubs. So you couldn't go and perform 5 minutes or 3 minutes and try out your material on people who had paid 15 ringgit, 20 ringgit, as part of an open mic. So when I got into the game, it was corporate shows immediately. So imagine being a new comedian, going up, you got to do half an hour to a room of 300 to 500 to 900 people. Who are not there to watch you. So those are the odds against you, and you fail.
So how did you get that gig? Is that because you were Steven the stylist from Kopitiam, or
because I had been doing MCing before that? I was a humorous MC. So I from acting, I went on to humorous MC work, and then from MC work they were like, "Hey, do you do stand up?" I was like, "Not really, but I would like to try it." And I was very interested. And so I think for the first 2 years, I just bombed. Bombed is basically you do so bad, you do very badly, to the point where I had people, Malaysians won't boo, they won't heckle, but they will ignore you.
That's almost worse, isn't it?
Worse, yeah. They reject you that way by ignoring you, and then one table starts yam, and while you're telling jokes on stage, they go,
my
yam.
God.
The other table goes yam. And you're just there going, oh, I would love to just have that whiskey now. Can someone give me the whiskey? I just want to have a whole bottle.
How do the clients react when that happens?
So then after that, I've had clients actually say, you know what, we're quite disappointed. So we're not gonna pay you.
Are you?
Yeah, and you did badly. You were there. I'm there. I know I did badly. I can't even go like, oh, it's not my problem, because I was the problem. And so a lot of times I would just go like, yeah, you're right. Keep the 50%. I can't. I mean, I failed. I really failed. I did so badly.
Oh, God.
I remember there was one time where I had already been doing, and this thing about stand-up, right? The last bad gig I had, the last gig that I felt bad, 2 years ago, 2.5 years before lockdown. It still happens. I've been doing this for how long? And I can have successful gigs. I can do gigs where 3,000 people are laughing so bad. So hard, they're laughing so hard, and I can then go to a next show and have just nothing.
Well, that's the arts, isn't it? And that's especially live theater. That's the risk that you take.
Yeah. And nothing. And so I remember there was one time I went to Singapore to do a show, and a lot of factors come into play why it didn't work. But regardless, I was there. I was supposed to make them laugh, and I failed. And the MC had to rescue me by coming on and just playing some games. There was one time a jazz band had to rescue me. Like the drummer snuck up and just tried to give the drum for the punchline like a tish to help me out, and even that didn't work. And then the bassist snuck up and the guitarist snuck up and started playing music slowly to just get louder and louder. In other words, telling Douglas, just get off, just get off. You're not working, just get off. And I was just going, okay, guys, thank you very much.
Oh my God, I think that's terrifying, isn't it? I mean, for a performer,
you die.
But
you
die. And the reality is, you've succeeded amazingly. Huge audiences, I think, that most Malaysians never ever see. And in one of the interviews, you said, you had to choose at one point whether to continue with TV and film or to go into stand-up, and the profitability was so much greater in stand-up that the choice was made. Is that correct?
Yeah. Basically, I just understand. Okay, in Malaysia, it works very differently. Stand-up comedians in the US, in Australia, in the UK, they are workhorses. They do 15-20 shows a month minimum.
Wow.
They could be doing 3 shows a day as they run from club to club, because there are so many clubs. They go one club here, I'll do 15 minutes here, then I'm going for the second slot in the other club, then I run back here and I come here, and their attitude towards stand-up is like, I will do clubs today, next day I will do Letterman, I'll go on Letterman, do my half an hour there, next day I will do a carnival, next I'm at a student union doing for a student graduation, next I'll be doing a children's party, next, they don't care, they're like, this is work, and they go and they do, unless you're the super big, unless you're Chappelle, unless you're Kevin Hart, unless you're Seinfeld, then there's a different level. But the working stand-up comedians, that's how they work in the US, in the UK, in Australia. In Malaysia, we are like 6 shows a month. Whoa, tired. Oh, tired. Oh my God. 6 companies ask me to do. Because this is company money. This is like, they have to spend it on entertainment. Do they spend it on a 7-piece band? Do they spend it on an 18-piece drum percussion unit? Or do they spend it on one person with one mic and a light?
Right. And
So
who makes you laugh? I think everybody wants to laugh, isn't it? That's the Malaysian thing.
Yeah, so for us in Malaysia, it was like, you're paying me how much? For one show? For half an hour? No production can beat that. No, like I still do TV, so I still, because to get, mass audience, mass media, and also continue to be as relevant as possible. But Chaco, it's like this. I could shoot 12 hours to 14 hours of a series, right? And work maybe 4 days a week, 5 days a week for 2 weeks. And I could do that, the same amount I could make in 1.5 shows.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chaco, can I just jump in just 1 second?
Yes, please do.
Just to wind back, I was struck by what you said about those failures, and you're right. I mean, 900 people ignoring you, and that's got to be difficult to take, right, for anyone. My question is, did that make you work harder? The failures.
I think it definitely made me a lot more humble in terms of what I think needs to be there to succeed. A lot of young comedians, and myself included, come in going, I'm funny, I'm confident, I've got jokes. That's all you need. Let's go. And then the failures remind you, no way, man. Like, no way. The way you prime the audience, the way you set up the whole thing, the limitations you put in place to make sure you have their attention, you wanna almost lock their attention, the way you play with lights to give them an atmospheric change, like, oh, something's happening now. So all these things come into play. the research that you got to do about the company, what you need to know about them, who have they hired before, who they liked, who they didn't like. So all these things come into play, and I think that's made me realize what goes into a successful show is a lot more than you and your balls. You know what I'm saying? Like, because a lot of people think that's all I need. Brains, ball, go in. I'm gonna kill it. You're not. A lot of things can still go wrong. One of the biggest nemesis of a comedian is prawns.
Prawns.
Like,
Tell me why.
yeah,
Tell us
yeah.
why.
Prawns. You could be doing the best joke of your life on stage. The prawns come out, you lose, man. No one's gonna listen to you. You can't beat prawns. Like once the prawns, what it's butter prawns or it's sweet sour prawns, whatever. The moment the prawns come out, just say thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and leave. So you gotta that has to be part of your rider list. Like, make sure the prawns don't come out when I'm joking, man, because I'm gonna lose.
Do you not say no food service while you're performing?
That's part of the rider. We do say that we don't even want him to clear, actually. So this part is I can give some secret, like insider. If anyone wants to do stand up, right? So of course, no food service. Drinks you cannot stop. Drinks service will happen. Okay. Food service, you got to stop them for that 20 minutes, half an hour that you're doing. Try and please, if you can, ask them to serve 2 dishes before you go on. So course 5, course 6, come out, then you come on, so nobody disturbs. That's the first one. Second rule is do not clear. Because the people's psychology is like this. They sitting down, the plate is there, right? They finish eating, it's there. The moment you clear, for them it's like, oh, it's over, I'm going out. I'm going out for chat, I'm going out to the toilet. So no, keep them in, close the door. Do not leave the ballroom door open, close the door. Make sure the lighting is at a particular level, constant during dinner, so that when it's time for showtime, the lights go dim. Everybody's like, whoa, that was something different, something changed. What's that going on? Boom, you're on stage. So all of that. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a nice segue into how do you prepare for a 15-minute set? How do you get your jokes ready? Do you try them out on people? Do you try them out on your wife or family or friends, or how does this work? Poor Natasha has to listen to all your bad jokes. What is a good one?
Yeah. No. Usually, it very, very, very rarely works for you to perform your jokes to your wife or your partner or even your brother, or because as I said, the stand-up jokes need to be to a crowd and they need to be there in a group, in a comedy setting. So a lot of comedians would practice it doing open mics. That's what open mics are for. A lot of big comedians go to open mics with the new material to try out in the crowd. And then what works, they keep. What doesn't work, they tweak. Because I was not from that generation. I didn't grow up that way. I cut my teeth corporate. So I cut my teeth with a lot of just writing and rewriting on my own, being in my own head, just writing and rewriting, playing it out in my head, seeing, I think it'll work. I think this would be good. I think this would be funny. Watching shows and then trying to figure out what similarities I have, whether I can tweak it, whether I can sharpen this here and there. And so that's what I do. And then you go out and you perform. And obviously the jokes that work, you keep and you try and get better. The jokes that don't work, just try and sharpen that. But definitely, if it's for a 15-minute show, prepare half an hour. If it's for half an hour show, prepare 45 minutes. Because you never know. Some jokes may just not be working, and so you switch gears and you go to other material that you have had prepared. What's also very important for me is to get as much intel on the audience as I can before the show. Who are they? What have they? What do they do? What industry? Is it C-level management? Is it a big mix of people? Is it, that means from CEO all the way down to the crane drivers? Who am I performing? Where are the crane drivers sitting? Are they all scattered? Are they, are the who is there? Is the MC going to be doing in predominantly English, or is there going to be a mixed English Chinese? Because I've done shows where it's all aircon salesmen. So it's just Chinese uncles. And so the MC is doing half English, half Hokkien. I'm like, it's not going to work. These apeks are not going to understand what I'm saying. And so have they?
So what do you do?
Are they? this all happens before the show. So sometimes you gotta say, I can't do this.
Wow.
This show's not gonna work. Or you end up with a bad show. I've done shows where I'm there and people are not listening, and I'm like, why? And then only much later realize they don't really speak English. And then a stupid piece of paper comes up, via the MC, can tell some jokes in Chinese. I'm like, no, I can't. And they'll be all flabbergasted. But how can you? But you are Lim, right? You are Chinese, right? Yeah. Wow. I'm English. I mean, I'm Malay educated and I speak English. So you didn't ask me to do jokes in Chinese, right? And you got to know how old they are, because again, if it's too young a crowd, I need to have proper topics for them. If it's all C-level, much senior level jokes, are they from the super rich gang? So don't come in with mama jokes. They're not. These guys don't even know what it's like to be in a mama. they have no idea, right? So male, female, what age group? Have they had a comedian before? That's one of the main questions I ask. So who have you had before? What do you like? Did you like this performance? And so to make sure I have all the advantage that I can have to do a good show.
Cool. Now let's talk about one of the highlights of your career, which is the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. What was it like being there for the first time? I mean, I've seen some of your videos, and it's a vast, it's like a huge audience, isn't it?
Yeah. That is at Melbourne, at the Palace Theatre. It's, I think, one of the oldest theatres in Melbourne, and it's like it goes flat up. There's like the stage, and then it's the stage you go, and the audience like shoom goes up that way, and you come up to, I think, about 2,000 people just there at you, and it was so scary because, first of all, this is the gala, and so not everyone gets to perform at the gala. There are over 800 performers in the Melbourne Comedy Festival.
Only Kings of Comedy. Only Kings of Comedy invited.
I don't know what strings were pulled, man. But so somehow I got there, and it was very scary because I had been doing comedy successfully in Malaysia for so long. So a lot of times my reputation preceded me. So when people hear, oh, Douglas Lim is coming to tell jokes, they'll be like, yeah, probably funny. He's not failed that much. He's probably quite funny. We're going to enjoy ourselves. So I go in with my reputation in front of me. With this one, they had no idea who these were. These were 2,000 white, not white, but like 2,000 Aussies, people who live in Australia. And so I had 4 minutes to give them my best jokes and to get them on my side, because if they do, then, it looks good. That goes out on TV. It was going out on national TV in Australia, and people will watch that and go like, okay, I want to watch. I saw 4 minutes. I like that. I want to watch his 1 hour show. I want to watch his show, and they would buy tickets to go and watch my show. And so because of that successful show, that's 4 minutes. My audiences for my month-long run was 80% Australian.
Fantastic. And
so
how many nights did you perform? How many of those 1 hour shows did you perform?
I think close to 24, probably 24 1 hour shows.
Amazing.
It's a festival. It's 1 month, so you perform every night except for Monday, I think. You perform every day.
Incredible.
And so, Chaco, can I just jump in very quickly?
Yes,
to ask you whether writing for a foreign audience is different than writing for a Malaysian audience?
Yes. It is different. Obviously, what I'm used to doing, the tricks that I rely on when performing to a local audience, the references all have to change. The expressions, the oi. Malaysians would go like, well, like small things like, oh, thanks, hey, thanks, no, whoa, thanks, that would not. The Australian audience would probably not understand why he's being sarky, what's the deal. So that was a challenge. The bigger challenge was performing for me, in my case, performing to 50% Malaysian, 50% Aussie. That was a challenge, and that's just even in Malaysia. Sometimes when I do shows, there's 50% local Malaysians, 50% foreigners. You don't know how to pitch. It's so hard to pitch. The topics is one. The language, the inflection, the nuance, the expressions is one. Even the pronouns, because when you imagine if you got half local, or rather half Malaysian, half Australian, saying things like, what do they think we are? What do they think we are? Who's we? Who's we? Malaysian or Australian? Who's we? So things I found myself, I'm fumbling, man. I'm not getting my message. I'm not communicating well. So I had to go back. I had to be clear, and so it was like, and hey, Malaysians, this is what the Australians think, lah. This is what the Australians think. So if in the room is suddenly, if it's more Australian, I'll be like, so this is what you think of us, the Aussies. This is what you think of Malaysians who come here. I have to be very clear because the you, I, they, them, us, completely haywire if it's 50-50.
Gosh.
So it's a high degree of precision, really, right? In what you do.
Because if they misunderstand
That's
your
the word.
joke,
Yeah.
falls,
So it's precision. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Falls flat. So
Yeah. Sorry, Chaco. Thanks.
not at all. The other big international gig you had was Made in America at the Public Theatre in Off Broadway, right? Which I worked with you a little bit in creating the show here. What is the difference between performing in the US and performing in Malaysia and maybe in Melbourne? Is there vast differences?
Well, that was stand up. That was a comedy play. I don't know what it's called, like an immersive play where we are together with the audience and everyone is around you and stuff.
Well,
like
you've
that.
done a lot of plays here as well, right? Istana Budaya and
musicals. But that one is not immersive. That one is basically I'm on the stage, your audience. So the fourth wall is not broken. Whereas this one, we are sitting together with the audience, and the audience is everywhere. They're looking around this way and stuff like that. So yeah, working on that. Of course, lucky we had people like you, Chaco, and James, and people like that here to prep us for our journey to the States. Because when we went there, we were working with American, New York-based actors, and so these were people who went to school. who learned acting and who have all sorts of experience acting and properly trained and stuff. So that was a daunting for me because I'm not a trained actor. I'm just I muck about here, and I learned on the job. So it was nice. They take it as a job. We would rehearse from 10 in the morning till 5, rest in Malaysia. That never happens. You rehearse in the evening after everyone finishes work, But that was like proper professional theater. And so they took it very seriously. Then when the audience came in, again, it was no idea who Gavin Yap and Douglas Lim are. Who are these two Malaysians? What are they doing here? But it was the play was written well. It was fairly tight, and it was a good experience for me. Especially the main challenge I had there was my accent, because a lot of times, especially in a play, in stand-up I can clarify what I say. If they don't understand, I can clarify. In a play, you can't. So I had to work on being as neutral as possible, but at the same time, not sounding like an American wannabe, because that's not why would Americans come and watch?
Because your character is Malaysian, right?
Yeah,
and that's the whole point.
Yeah, and Malaysians and obviously New Yorkers or Americans will come and they'll be like, well, please don't sound like us. Don't sound like you came from the Bronx. Just sound whatever you sound like. But at the same time, I needed to make sure you could understand what I was saying, and so that was one of the challenges for me working in New York. But what a buzz! What a buzz!
Yeah, I think you created history, right? Malaysians doing a play off Broadway. I think it's never ever happened before.
I think what was even more more cool about that was that we did not. It's not like a lot of Malaysians who claim to have performed in big places overseas finance the entire thing. It's like they go there, they rent out the whole hall, and then they perform, and they're like, oh, so I performed here. And so for us, it was like we got invited to perform. We got invited to perform there and it was for the American audience. So I'm very proud of that. Both Gavin and myself are super proud.
And Terry and the Cuz, who produced and wrote and did everything, right? Fantastic. So Gopal, do you want to go into our next segment on
sure.
lockdown?
Thanks for that, Chaco. Douglas, before we deal with the next segment, and this I think is what you've been asked most about by publications in Malaysia, media in Malaysia recently. I have one question. Do you have an uncle who at Chinese New Year says, "Hey, Douglas, tell us a joke"?
Not much because not much because in my family, actually, a lot of them on my father's side, they don't really speak English. They're Hokkien, you know. So I've got cousins. I've got the cousins all. Yeah, they all speak English. I don't get that very often, but I get the tell us a joke from people lah, from people who see me on the streets. They be like, or see me in the shops. They be like, hey, tell us a joke. And so you can. There are many ways you can deal with this. You can be like, I know, because I know of some people, right, who, I don't know why they take the sake approach when they get this, like some of my friends who are maybe singers, and they be like, hey, sing a song, and they be like, yeah, pay first lah. Yeah, why don't you pay me? And I'm like, I don't think you need to go that way. They're just being nice. It's their way of saying hello. So what I do is I just prepare some jokes. I have jokes I can tell anytime. What's it gonna cost me? I'll just tell you a joke. It's not my joke. But I think it's a funny joke, and I have them. So.
Right. And do they regularly work?
Yeah, no, these are funny jokes. These jokes
they work. So they work.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's just turn to what you've been doing recently. And what I'd like to find out is a little bit about the technique in terms of, these recent videos you've been doing, the satires, the political stuff, and walk us through the process from you see this, you see the press conference on TV and how long it takes you from watching that to actually recording the video and what's the process in between.
How many buildings were demolished because of rocket fire?
See, don't focus on this negative demolition. So you see, what happened was there was a missile, and there was a building, and they kiss each other. Nampak? Now, I don't know why kiss you think is an act of war. It's an act of love, kan? And when I kiss my wife, it's an act of love. Maybe when you kiss your wife, it's an act of war lah. Tak tahu lah. Apa dia?
So as chairman, what actions have you taken so far?
Apa soalan ni? Chair lah, sofa lah. Jangan perabot-perabot. Okay, ni saya tak suka ni. Sekejap chair, sekejap sofa. Next apa? Carpet. I think it depends on the situation. So sometimes it can take from between, whole process would be between 6 to 8 hours, or it could take a few days, a few months. So like for that one, that was pretty fast because it came out, and I think what happened was I latched on to, first was the general attitude I saw, which I felt not too comfortable with. I think a bit. You see, okay, comedy also is like this, and a lot of comedians will tell you this. We know what jokes to tell. We also know when to tell. Very important. You must know when to tell your jokes. The right place, right time is very important. And I use the analogy like coffee in a cup is a drink. Coffee on your shirt is dirt. So you like one, you don't like the other, right? And so not just him at the press conference. We've had other people, prominent people who crack jokes, not the right place, right time. Kangkong jokes. It's a joke. It was a joke. It was clearly a joke. But wrong place, wrong time. So same thing with this one about the kissing joke. Wrong place, wrong time, because there were accidents and there were people who were hurt. So it's things like that where I see then, and so I picked up on I felt the attitude, the choice of attitude that was uncomfortable. So I picked up on that, and then what I did was because my technique here is extended metaphor. Some call it satire, some call it parody. It's fine. It's basically an extended metaphor. So I take what is the gist of what is happening and I put it in different contexts for entertainment and legal purposes. So as you can see, I don't name any names. I change all the names as much as possible. So now I change to a wartime context. So now suddenly it's a war. So he's this person. I'm there, and I'm just being very flippant about casualties of war.
Yeah.
Which is kind of similar. And so if you think an accident is like kissing, well, then as a person talking about the war, a bullet hitting a body is just a gathering. It's a gathering of bullets and bodies. It's a reunion. It's a reunion of bayonet to stomach, and so that was basically the joke throughout. And then I just ended it with what my initial point was, is that I actually don't care, guys. If it's all right with all of you, I really don't care. So, am I supposed to care? Yeah. So, and I guess that had to also go out. It was a very time sensitive a joke for the references to work. So that one took me about 6 hours.
Wow.
6 hours, because the writing part and the performing part is muscle memory. And so I'm better at that. I can write pretty fast. I can do that. But it's the editing, the shooting, the editing, the sound. That one takes a long time. And the subtitles.
And you do all that yourself.
At the moment, At the moment, like Natasha helps me with costumes and props.
Yeah, I was going to come to that actually, because what struck me as well was that, you do stand up. There's not really that much sort of sets, or there isn't really. So you had to apply your mind to sets here. And one thing in particular, for me, I love that Tupperware on the face. That one, that just blew me away. And so did you really spend time? You had the 6 hours. How much of that time do you spend thinking about what in the set is going to work? And the second question I have is the questions, the guys who ask the questions. Is that you as well? And how do you think about doing it in that voice? What sort of inspired you to do it in those voices?
Okay, so I don't put enough emphasis on sets, on costume, on props as I should because I'm not art department. As you know, from my training or even my career, I've always been performer first, writer second. So my emphasis is always on performance and writing. So things like the set, the costumes, the makeup, the props, I don't put enough effort in it. And so Natasha is there to help me, like with the costumes, sometimes the props. Like if I sometimes do, they'll make the tea for me and stuff like that, because I'll be rushing around trying to get all this done. The questions, like the banter. So that is a process in writing where when we write, like for sitcoms and stuff like that. So, okay, the script is there, then not funny enough, let's do some punch-ups. So we write punch-ups is usually, we add to the gag, or we magnify the gag, we make it better. Then comes something called coloring. Coloring is where what I did with the voices is the reason is just for comedy's sake, just to have the high voice, have the low voice, have the the bored voice, have the BBC, so it's just for laughs. There's no significance to it. It's just the third stage in writing, where you just try and make everything try to make as many things as possible funny.
Okay. Now, can I ask you, in terms of you were talking about the immediacy of social media, and obviously you've pivoted to kind of working in that atmosphere, in that environment now. What are some of the more interesting comments you received from Malaysians who've watched your recent work?
Like some comments are quite nice, where they try and decipher everything, and sometimes they go overboard with the deciphering. They go overboard with the symbols, and they attribute stuff to symbols which I didn't even think of. Like to me, it was just a dumb joke. Or I said something, or I put something there for no reason, but because they think everything is a symbol, or everything has meaning. So there's they would discuss that, and they would challenge each other. So that's quite fun. Of course, there are also some comments where they would question my choice of subject. They would say, "Well, you joke about this. Why don't you joke about that? Why did you not joke about this? Why didn't you joke about?" And for me, it's like, because it's my joke. like a lot of people say like, no, if you joke about A, you got to joke about B. You got to be fair. Not really. You got to be fair if you're running a country. You got to be fair if you're a judge. If there's a game and there are rules, you got to be fair. But if I'm telling jokes, it's really up to me, guys. It's my decision. But the best comments I receive are the ones that say like, hey man, I'm in a hospital, just recovering from surgery, and I watched your video and I laughed and it was really fun. Thank you so much. Or like some would be like, our boss came in and he was in a bad mood and we were all going to get firing. We knew they were going to get firing. And next thing you know, he's watching your video and he's laughing and he's come out and he's sharing the video with us. And we're like, oh my, thank God for your video. Like my video actually had some practical use. So that was like, I got a friend who, said that, Doug, I've just pulled a 20-hour shift, a doctor. I just pulled a 20-hour shift. I'm losing my mind. And I was like messaging my family, telling them I've got to stay back in the hospital. And then I just scrolled your video. And Doug, I laugh. Thanks a lot, brother. Things like this is priceless. It makes you feel so nice.
Well, yeah, remarkable. I'm just going to pivot now to this sort of the closing questions. And the first is, I think, for young comedians coming up now, you've got this social media platforms in which your performances can be watched. Just very quickly, advice to them how do you turn that comedy into a business? How do you monetize that online?
Of course, I think there are two, in my opinion, only two real ways. I'm sure there are more, but for me, there are only two real ways. Number one is get your videos on the social media platforms. They can pay you. So Facebook pays you now if your views are high enough. Not much. I mean, for 100,000 views, I think you probably get about $70. But still, it's for one video, 3 minutes, at least 3 minutes. Okay, on what do you call that, on Facebook. YouTube pays, I think, slightly more. But you got to get the numbers and you got to get the subscribers. But work small. I only started my YouTube channel properly, just a year and a half ago, and so I from like 9,000 people, 10,000 people, slowly, just doing that. Try your best not to give up, but also work on the material. Watch a lot of comedy if you can. Watch a lot of comedy and to try and learn and copy and incorporate stuff. The other way is to get your videos out, and even if they don't make money on social media, in other words, even if Facebook doesn't pay you or YouTube, there's not much money there. But if it's good enough and people start ripping it and they start sharing it on WhatsApp and whatever, all sorts of nonsense, right? If it goes out there, you may get the attention of sponsors. So you may get the attention of brands, of companies who be like, hey, you did this video. Can you do a similar video for me? I sell aircon. And then you
right.
But you can discuss.
Okay.
Yeah, you discuss, and then you become paid.
Or you come and do stand up at my annual dinner, right? We loved your video so much. Come and do stand up comedy.
Yeah.
But not Victoria, not VI or all boys lah.
Yeah, free.
No money in that one. Okay. All right. Douglas, I got to ask you this: if there was a comedian you could spend 1 hour with, who would that be, and what would be your first question?
I think I would like to. It would be a toss up between Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. I think it would definitely be between either Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock. And I think my first question would be, can I take a picture with you? That's what matters.
Of course. Yeah,
that's what matters. Yeah. But no, it will be a technical question. It's going to be really boring. It's going to be, I don't know.
I'd be interested. Okay, I would be interested actually. I'm sure our listeners would be as well. If it's a technical question, what would it be?
Okay. I think my technical question would be, what are the steps for Chris Rock, for example, who in my opinion one of the best macro comedians. Macro comedian meaning that Chris Rock throws a statement that is so macro that makes people like shocked, and then his entire set, or rather that bit, will be about proving to you how right he was in making a macro statement. A macro statement could be something like, who lies more, women or men? I'm going to tell you, women lie more. Macro statement. And the crowd will be like, how can you say that? And then he spends 20 minutes drilling down.
Right.
I don't have that skill yet. I'm not at that level where I can make macro statements and then and drill down. For me, it's a lot of it is observing stuff and going, hey, this is something weird that we do, and then taking it into a different context. Can you imagine if we did the same thing? For example, like world wrestling, like we watch WWE and we watch it and the rules are all over the place. We don't know what's going on. The enemy can show up halfway from under the table. The referee is a bonkers, but we accept it and we're like, oh, this is great. Imagine if this was in a badminton match and halfway, playing Zija is playing someone else and suddenly Lindan shows up from behind. The madness that would occur. So that is observational comedy. Rock can do it from a macro standpoint, and I want to know how to do that.
Right. Interesting. Douglas, listen, I mean, that what you do is it is not just high art, it takes high intelligence. Thank you for being with us. But before we go, I think Ambiga wants to come back on. If I could just ask Dave to come back on as well. And she's got a couple of questions for you before we wrap up.
Hi everyone. I'm Ambiga.
Okay. Hi. Right, Douglas. So, don't you think Malaysians have a great sense of humor? I mean, when I look at the social media, right, and the comments that ordinary Malaysians make, they're amazing, actually, some of the comments that they make. Don't you agree?
I totally agree.
So, following from that, who makes Douglas Lim laugh? So, in other words, who is your favorite Malaysian comedian?
You're gonna get me in trouble with this question, man.
That's a job. That's a job, mate. Yeah.
I'm gonna steer clear from friends. Okay, so miss, if they're friends, if they're colleagues, I'm gonna steer clear from this. But I can tell you some of the videos and some of the content that I watch that make me laugh. There's one guy called Faraday Abel. That's his handle. You can watch him on, I think, Instagram and YouTube. FARRADYABLE. Faraday Abel. He does bad lip reading. So he basically takes clips and he lip reads nonsense. And he's got this one really funny video. I suggest go and watch it. It's called Faraday Abel Gigi Teeth. Gigi Louis Armstrong. And he basically takes Louis Armstrong singing "It's a Wonderful World," but the song is about teeth, about Gigi, and it's so funny. So Friday Abel is one. The other one I like to watch is, I forget, but they're from Kelantan. What's his name? Also Malay comedy. I can't remember now, but they're big on YouTube. Drama Spontan. It's called Drama Spontan, and it is it's Malay again, but it's very funny. And it's heartwarming as well, because one of the main characters is a special needs guy. I think he's probably autistic, but he loves acting. But he can't remember dialogue, right? So all the director, who's his cousin, all the director can do is like, look, just respond. So all the other actors are there trying the best to get a response from this guy, and he's just there saying whatever he wants, but he's acting and he's enjoying himself. And so yeah, those two constantly make me laugh.
Fantastic, and I've never heard of these people. So
interesting. We should
watch
check
Malay comedy.
Fantastic. So I tell you, your little gremlin-like voices, which are yours, now we find out, crack me up completely, okay, honestly, because they represent the very people that you're talking about. So but let me ask you about this, and this is the last question. You had that art class episode, okay, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, where you talked about the day one being closed, etc., and we were just giggling all the way through that until we came to the end, and you said, at least tak semua near gelap. And I can tell you, Douglas, that really choked me up. I mean, that stopped me in my tracks, and I thought, what a brilliant end.
Okay, anyway, start packing up. Okay, kita nak pergi Dewan untuk perhimpunan.
Cikgu, Dewan belum buka.
Dewan belum buka.
Belum buka.
Kan saya dah suruh buka. Kan, you semua dengar kan? Cikgu ada suruh buka Dewan. Saya suruh 3 kali kan buka?
3 kali.
Masih belum buka. Panggil ketua pengawas apa? Dino ah. Panggil jumpa cikgu.
Dia tak boleh datang.
Kenapa dia tak?
Dia cek tau.
Cerit bed. Oh my god. Ini first time ya saya dengar alasan tak boleh jumpa cikgu sebab cerit beret. Oh, habislah. Ini mesti satu sekolah berlumba-lumba buat joke. Dino. Pasal cerit beret, dia pergi buat announcement. Kan? Pasal benda yang penting, dia tunggu last minute, lepas tu senyap-senyap hantar PDF. Come on lah, Dino. Okay, tak apa. Memandangkan yang Dewan belum buka, kita teruskan je lah. Yes. Yat, oh, you have a new drawing for me, Yat?
Yes.
What is this? Kenapa guna watercolour yang gelap-gelap saja? Apa tajuk lukisan ini?
Masa depanku.
Masa depanku. It's okay, Yat. Bawa lukisan yang bendera putih punya. Okay. Saya lekat ni kat depan. Alright? So at least tak semuanya gelap. At least tak semuanya gelap.
Now, what made you do that?
It's because I've been feeling this way for quite a while already. I have got friends who have had to fire people, who have to close their business, who had put everything they had into a venture, and to no fault of their own, have to now ask for help. And these people are proud people, you know. They are self-made. They didn't do anything wrong, you know. And every day, and I apart from the messages, obviously, of, oh, it was really funny, we really enjoyed your video. There are also messages where, hey Douglas, I've got some food. Is it okay if I could just give you some food, because I really enjoyed the videos, but really it's all I can offer. I can't offer anything else. And they give me food, you know.
Yeah. You said it in your video.
So I think, I'm very passionate about comedy and I like making people laugh. But sometimes you gotta acknowledge the things that we're not laughing about, and we gotta acknowledge the things that are sad and hard, bad, and try and help each other out.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Douglas, very quickly, what can we look forward to that you're creating? Is there any new stuff that you're planning or new shows that we can look forward to?
But at the moment, don't know lah, Chaco, because as far as I know, only phase 4, right? We can open entertainment. So I think that might be in 2024. I'm not sure. The rate things are going.
Yeah. I know.
I also don't know actually. So yeah, live shows, I don't think so lah. Not for a while. But something might be happening in August. I cannot say more. I'm so sorry. But something might be happening in August around that time. There are also like some TV shows and stuff like that on them. But everything is on hold now because we really don't know what can happen. I'll just continue, I guess, just doing videos because news keeps coming in, and I get informed by a lot of new things that are happening.
Douglas, thank you so much for joining us and sharing so much about your art, your life, and your art and your creativity. We're really looking forward to more videos and keeping us laughing and thinking out of the box. I think that's something that you do so well. So thank you for joining us, and to our viewers, thank you for joining this episode of Boleh the podcast. Keep track of what we're doing from our social media pages, and catch our next show.
Thanks,
Thank
Douglas.
you, guys. Thank you for having me.